This is the E-commerce Edge podcast with your host, Jason Greenwood. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the podcast. Before we kick things off with this amazing guest I have lined up for you today, I'd like to encourage you all to go wherever you're listening or watching this episode on, whatever platform you're on, go to the subscribe button or the follow button, follow, and also give us a share. We've got over 400 episodes in the can already, so we've got a decent size back catalog of amazing content for you to enjoy and share with your friends. We need all the help we can get. It pushes us up the algorithm every time you like and share our content. So thank you very much for all the help you give to us to help spread the word far and wide about the e-commerce edge. But what I've got lined up for you today is going to be a fantastic conversation. I've got Teddy Solomon, who is the co-founder of Fizz, online with me today. Welcome, Teddy.
Thank you. Great to be here.
It's awesome to have you along for the ride today. And you are in the famous Palo Alto, California region, right?
I am. Yeah, I'm right here in Palo Alto, a couple blocks away from Stanford.
Love it. Love it. I tell you, lots of big tech companies and Apple, and I think even Google got their start in Palo Alto as well. So definitely it's a hotbed of tech. I come from Southern California originally, Riverside area, just about 40 minutes east of Los Angeles. So I'm very familiar with your area and what a hotbed of tech it is. And you've joined the ranks of the tech community, starting up this startup platform. And we'll get into that shortly about what the nitty-gritty of Fizz is, how you came up with the idea, all that sort of stuff. But before we do that, what dragged you into the world of big tech? What attracted you about the world of technology? And obviously your platform, and again, we'll talk about it in a minute, it's got a social element, it's got a marketplace element, it's got a college focus, it's got some really interesting flavorings about it. But what sucked you into this industry to begin with? What interested you about it?
Totally. So a little background on me. I am originally from San Francisco. I'm 22 years old now. And what happened was I grew up with this lifelong dream of entering the college basketball journalism world, a really niche area that I wanted to go down. And I had the opportunity to start my college career at Stanford, where I still intended on going down that path. It was 2020, middle of the pandemic. And the unfortunate part of the time when I started college was it's the middle of a global pandemic. So you can't actually come to campus and live out a normal college experience. So Stanford said to us, you can't come to campus. And I said, I want to go somewhere. Like, I want to have the opportunity to connect with the people that I go to school with. So I met a guy named Ashton in a Zoom breakout room. He was from Columbus, Ohio. I am from San Francisco. And we basically decided over the course of a 2-minute breakout room, we're going to try to convince as many Stanford students as possible to move to Scottsdale, Arizona, because it wasn't too expensive. And it was a great way to form our own bubble in the middle of what was a challenging time in the world. So we did that. And we spent fall of our freshman year in Scottsdale, Arizona in 2020. And I still thought I was going down this path of becoming a college basketball journalist. But the time came to actually begin college. We saw all the people around us, they're on a couple main platforms. One of them is Instagram, where you basically just present the 1% of your life, the moment that is the best, the highlight reels, the curated highlight reels of your life. And we also had this giant group chat. It was a 1,200 person chat on a platform called GroupMe. And in that chat, there would be 3 people who would speak. Because our generation, we grew up online. When you grow up natively on social media, you have this expectation of presenting the most perfect version of your life. But as a result, our school, Stanford, which is not a big school, had no way to actually have the students communicate with one another. So we said there has to be some different way. And from there, we built Fizz. And I'm happy to jump more into the details of that. But it was an accidental journey into the world of tech, the world of startups, but would not trade it for the world.
Wow, incredible. And look, what I love about this story is it's the classic case of scratching an itch. It's the classic case of doing something you love that was born out of frustration or necessity, eating your own dog food, trying to create a better mousetrap, create a better solution to a challenge or a problem, and identifying culturally what's in the zeitgeist already and tailing onto that and saying, can we commercialize this challenge in some way that we can create a solution for through technology, right? I'm 49 years old. I'm almost 50 years old. I'd like to think that my wife's a millennial, but she likes to say that I'm at least as good at social media as she is, maybe even better in some respects. I put out content almost every single day across social. So I'd like to think I still have my finger on I'd like to think I'm not quite just a grumpy old man yet. So I'd like to think that I'm still got my finger on the pulse of what's happening in the social community online amongst the younger generation. There definitely seems to be springing up a new type of social platform that is popular for a window of time. They seem to spring up all the time and then they disappear. We had audio chat rooms. Then we had the only platforms that really seem to have stuck so far are the Instagrams, are the Facebooks, are the LinkedIns of the world. Reddit it's got its own flavor. These platforms, there's only a tiny little handful of social platforms that feel like they've managed to transcend more than one generation. And so I find it super interesting that you guys had the guts to take on some of the big boys and girls of social media and say, look, we think we can do some elements of this. Maybe we won't be as big as Instagram. Maybe we won't be as big as YouTube. Maybe we won't. Maybe we will. But I like the fact that you had kind of commerce built in at the core of the idea to begin with. Because at the end of the day, now we have every other social media platform trying to bolt on commerce capability as an afterthought, right? You look even at TikTok, right? With TikTok Shop, that was an afterthought years and years after Douyin and TikTok took off, like Douyin in China and TikTok in the US. Like they're trying to retrofit commerce into the content experience. They're trying to retrofit commerce into the Instagram experience. YouTube just announced less than a week ago a expanded partnership for creators with Shopify. So if you're a Shopify brand, they want to be able to connect you with creators via YouTube so that when creators are putting out content, they can effectively tag products from sellers. And then basically, if that product is sold as a part of consumption of that product, then everybody shares, right? The creator shares, YouTube shares, and the seller shares. It feels like every major social behemoth is definitely trying to stick their fingers into the commerce pie. But you had that concept right at the beginning, right?
Absolutely. Commerce is really important to the point of the kind of social platforms that have gone up and then gone down. We're not one of them. We always built this platform to be a durable one that will last even longer than the Instagrams, the Facebooks, the TikToks of the world, even the Reddits of the world. For us, it was all about building a durable platform that was going to add utility to the lives of students and to the lives of users, the people who are using the platform. So to actually touch on what the platform is and how that evolution came to commerce, we built Fizz to be this private platform. You verify with your .edu email. Once you're in, you can post memes, images, polls, GIFs, links, DM people, the whole 9 yards. The cool thing about it is you have the ability to post anonymously, meaning it's credentialed anonymity. You know who's in the community. It's the people who you go to school with. It's these people who have verified with their .edu email. You just don't know who's who within the community. And it gives people this level of authenticity, this ability to actually speak their minds and talk about the 99% of their lives that don't make it onto Instagram or TikTok or these other glorified social platforms. And that's really what it's all about. But when we launched it in the earliest days at Stanford back in 2021, we knew it was not going to be a joking platform or a meme platform. It was going to be the platform for all things campus life. And we also knew it wasn't going to be a college platform. It's a generational platform. It's solving a Gen Z problem that people genuinely have. They're looking for private community, intimate community, trustworthy community, a place where they actually feel comfortable to be themselves. And commerce is a big part of that. Because when you get penetration within any given market and density within a community, you have an incredible opportunity to have a two-sided marketplace. And we knew it was going to be a clear use case of the platform. But I actually had a moment at Stanford about 2.5 years ago where we knew Fizz Marketplace is going to be huge. This is going to be a huge part of what we're building here. And it was that I went into Stanford's bike shop to sell my bike. And it was the end of the school year, so everybody was trying to sell their bike. And they said to me, you should go on to Fizz and you should sell your bike on there. They had no clue who I was. But what that said to me was there is a clear use case here for people buying and selling to one another within a community that they trust. And through lots of experimentation, about 2 years actually building out what Fizz Marketplace is today, we quickly came to realize that there is an incredible market for it. People are not using eBay. They're not using Craigslist. They don't feel safe on Facebook Marketplace, and Facebook is completely falling out of favor with Gen Z right now. So there's this opportunity where students want to buy and sell to people they trust. They want it to be efficient. They can go buy and sell to the person who is next door to them in the dorm next door. They want it to be safe. We find that our users feel safe transacting because they know it's a student at their school and not a stranger who's going to kidnap them or maybe not pay them or something crazy. They can do it in the easiest, safest way possible. And that's what's been really incredible about seeing the growth of our marketplace and how it's just taken off across the country.
Wow. So first of all, you obviously have your elevator pitch down pat, which is amazing. I have full respect, full kudos for that. Two immediate questions that leap out at me out of all those amazing things that you just mentioned. Do you have a vision for what the Fizz experience will or should be like for students after they graduate? Once they get into their working life, once they get into their marriage life, or basically once they've got a mortgage, 2 cars, a good job, whatever it might be. Do you have a vision for what Fizz should mean to them after college life and after they graduate from university, and maybe even after they shut down their university email address? And then secondarily, presumably, and I'm sure you correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm going to be transacting through the platform, at some point I'm going to have to unmask my anonymity. I'm assuming if I'm going to meet up with somebody and if I'm going to sell my bike on the university campus, and I need to tell you what dorm room I'm in, or I need to tell you what my address is for my apartment or whatever it is, so you can come and collect this bike and pay me cash or whatever it is, or maybe even transact through the platform. I don't even know if it's transactional. But so those are the two key questions I have. At some point, I'm assuming you must unmask yourself to a degree if you want to interact with people in the physical world. And then secondarily, what's your vision for Fizz users post-university life?
For sure. So on the post-college point, I can't share too much, but the way that we have always envisioned the platform is that this is a generational platform, meaning the idea of credentialed anonymous communities, the idea of a private, intimate community where people can talk about their common experiences. It translates to the pre-college, the college, and the post-college experience. So the college market is not the end of the road here for this product. It really is everything. On the note of anonymity to identity, what we found is our users are more than happy to reveal their identity. They will post something into the marketplace. They'll say, hey, I'm selling my bike. And when it comes time to go meet up with whoever's trying to buy it, you say, all right, meet me at this dorm. Because you don't have to worry about it being a stranger. It's not. It's somebody who you go to school with, and you meet up in person, shoot a Venmo payment over or a Cash App payment, call it a day. We do not have payments integrated into the platform. It's all about giving people this efficient way to transact in real life. And we have found that there is no reluctance to share your identity on the platform. Something really cool about it actually is your average seller only talks to 2 people before selling the item. That's the level of comfort that they have.
Wow, that's incredible. And so this feels, or maybe V20, depending on how you look at it, of Facebook, because Facebook originally was meant to be a similar type of platform, right? It was meant to be for authenticated users from universities and college students who had their university email address. That's how they authenticated. That's how it was targeted. It wasn't targeted at the world. It was initially targeted at university and college students. And it obviously pretty rapidly got away from its core, its roots, its beginnings. They didn't, obviously, Facebook didn't have a marketplace envisaged from day one. That was much, much later down the track. It didn't have the concept of anonymity. In fact, it was intentionally non-anonymous, that basically, yes, you had to be a university or college student to join, but the whole idea was you'd unmask yourself, you'd have an image of yourself, you would connect with your 10 closest friends on the campus, and that's how those little nuclei of groups came into being, right? It feels like your version 2 of Facebook, in that you identified what made Facebook successful, but also some of the weaknesses of the original Facebook vision. And you said, look, let's create a new Facebook for the next generation, right? The new generation, the younger generation, who are more concerned about privacy, who are more concerned about vetting people, who are concerned about violence on campus, who are concerned about all these different things, about getting scammed, about getting ripped off, about wanting to do business with their peers that are genuinely their peers. It feels like you looked at Facebook and you said, look, let's take a clean sheet of paper approach to the Facebook model. And if Mark Zuckerberg was to create Facebook today from scratch, what might that look like in today's world? That feels what the model was, but correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, to us, it's really important to stay true to our core philosophy, which was the idea that these siloed communities have to exist in some capacity, whether that means down the line connecting them in some way, it very well could be. But in terms of the value proposition, what we're actually able to give users, it's something really unique in terms of this private community. They've never really seen it before. And on the point of what this generation is feeling, well, what I'd add to that list is a sense of loneliness and a sense of judgment from their peers, where that's one of the big things we're trying to solve for here. We want all of our users to be able to connect in a way that doesn't make them nervous, because people are worried about being canceled. People are worried about being judged for something they say. People are worried about everything these days. And to us, we want students, we want Gen Z users, we want the people who are using our platform to be able to have a safe environment where they can interact with other people, they can speak about the most authentic things that are actually happening in their lives, and so that it can lead to real life connection. And I guess off of that point, Fizz is an offline platform because these are real life events that are impacted by the daily happenings of the platform. When you are buying and selling an item, yes, you may start anonymous, but it ends with you meeting a real life person at your school. Yes, if you are posting about an event on campus, you're putting it into an online board being Fizz, but also, yes, you end up at the same party as all the people at your school. So that's what's really cool about it. It is a direct reflection of this real life experience that everybody's sharing.
And obviously I can't log in. I'm not a university student. I'm not an alum of Stanford, et cetera. So I can't check out the UI and what that looks like. But if I was a current Stanford student and I was to log into the platform for the very first time, create my account with my .edu email address, what am I met with from a user experience perspective? Am I presented first with the social interactive community stuff, or am I met first with the more transactional marketplace, list your items, sell your items, buy your items? Walk me through what that UX is like for me when I first joined the platform and start to figure out, oh, geez, what communities can I join here? What's a good fit for me?
When you go onto the platform, you verify with your .edu email. Once you're in, it is one central feed. What's really cool about where we're at right now is it's all integrated, meaning we have a separate tab for our marketplace, but as of a couple of weeks ago, marketplace listings also pop up in your main feed. So on your main feed, you're going to see the hottest posts at any given time at your school. You can switch over to the new feed, which has the most recent posts at your school. You can go over to see the top all time or past week or past day right there. But what you will see really quickly when you go onto Fizz is the sheer velocity of content. We have had over 20 million posts made on the platform over the course of the past 2 years, which is an astronomical number. At Stanford, what that means is any given day, if you go in at the end of the day, you will see 1,000 posts that have been made that day by your peers at the school. So it's all there in one place, and the students get to bubble up the content that they believe is the best that they want people to see. If you want to see exclusively marketplace listings, you'll go to the bottom right-hand corner, you will click into the marketplace tab, and you will see a feed right there that has all the things that people at your school are selling. You can click on a listing, you can direct message a user. Just since launching that, it's a very brand new feature, but we launched that back in spring and we've seen over 200,000 direct messages sent in our marketplace alone, which has been really incredible.
And do you pre-curate the feed for me? Or yes, I have those different options of seeing top, seeing chronological order. I've got some element of control over kind of what order I'm seeing the content in my feed. But am I seeing content only from my university peers, or am I seeing it from the entire network of universities, or is it based on proximity? There might be 3 universities within a 10-mile radius of each other, and I might want to see content from those universities just down the road from where I go to university because it's relevant to me because it's so close by. How do you think about those communities? Is it really literally a centralized community of on-campus peers?
It's only students at your school. So the way that we initially hypothesized that was, if I'm a student at Stanford, I'm not going to understand the content in the Dartmouth community. So if I were to go see a Dartmouth post, yeah, they're talking about like APHE and beta and Greek life. I'm like, this stuff doesn't exist as much at Stanford. But if I'm a Dartmouth student and I see at Stanford, they're talking about the football game against Cal, that wouldn't make sense to me. And it's the hyperlocality that makes it really cool. So it is isolated to your individual school. It is a siloed community. And that's a lot of what makes our users feel so safe on the platform. In the marketplace alone, what we see is clothing is the most popular listing. But what's really cool when you dive a little bit deeper is 3/4 of the clothing items are from women. in our communities. And what I have seen in talking to users on campuses and talking to women who are using Fizz Marketplace, it's on Facebook Marketplace, they didn't feel safe. But on Fizz Marketplace, they feel as though because it's one of their peers, it's somebody that they trust, and it's somebody at their school, it's going to be an experience that keeps them safe from start to finish and gets the job done of what they want to get done. So it's really all about safety and intimacy, I think, at the end of the day.
And how do you deal with how do you think about balancing that idea of a safe space that is university specific, is peer specific, is region specific, is siloed, combined with in some instances, let's say something bad did happen. I'm not saying it will, but it could. Let's say somebody does, because even if they're actually a student at the campus and they do have a genuine student email address, students on campus still occasionally do bad things, right? They get drunk and they do crazy things. What would happen if the police were to come to you and say, hey, look, we think that something bad happened as a result of this transaction, which was orchestrated through DM on Fizz or whatever it might be, and we think something bad happened, but we need to investigate. So we need to know who was involved in this transaction, and we need to know their real identity behind this. How do you balance that sense of community, trust, privacy, transparency? Like, how do you think about those very real challenges of managing an online community where, sure, you behind the scenes might know exactly who they are based on their email address, but you can't guarantee that just because they're a student that they're automatically going to be safe, right? So it feels like a balancing act, a very delicate one.
Especially in this day and age, it's the most important thing. So in terms of how we work with law enforcement, that can be found on our website. In our privacy policy, we're very clear in terms of the ways in which we work with them. But it takes me into the point of moderation, which is moderation both in the marketplace and in the main feed is a core element of what we do. And what we always thought was moderation should not be done centrally. It should be done through a decentralized method. What that actually means in practice is we have a network of almost 5,000 volunteer moderators across the country. These are students who are power users of the platform, people who are constantly on the platform, and they do it because they love Fizz and they love their school. And as a result of that, we have students who are constantly monitoring these communities, making sure that they're safe and making sure that bad players there, people who are violating our guidelines or trying to hate speech or misinformation or whatever it might be, they're booted off the platform. Something cool about Fizz is you're never coming back if you're booted off because you don't have another .edu email. And the sheer consequence of not being able to come back onto the platform that exists for everything you need with respect to your campus life, it's a big one. And as a result, people tend to be really well behaved. But we also have another way in which we keep the app safe, and it's through AI moderation, which obviously has improved considerably over the course of the past year. We've been able to rebuild our moderation system from the ground up using LLMs. And what was previously 30% of violating content being removed by AI and 70% from our volunteer moderators has now become 75% by AI and 25% by our volunteer moderators. And that's all the while our volunteer moderation system has gotten even better, which is really cool to see. So moderation is always going to be at the forefront of everything we do that relates to both the marketplace and the main feed. And we have this system in place with these volunteer moderators, with our central safety team, and with our AI moderation to make sure that it's a place where people can feel comfortable, that users that are not acting in a proper way are going to be dealt with.
Wow. Just given the size and scale that the platform is at already, it feels compute isn't cheap, AI isn't cheap. Like, none of this stuff is inexpensive. So you guys bootstrapped? Are you funded? Are you looking for funding? Where are you at on your funding journey? What does that look like from an investment perspective? What does it look like for you? You may not even know the answer to this yet. So saying I don't know is a perfectly justifiable response. Or do you have a vision for acquisition from somebody much bigger? Do you have a vision for a liquidity event, a big secondary, a going public? Like, you may not have thought this far down the track, but then again, you may have. So when we think about how you are funding the continued build out and extension of this application, what does that look like for you?
So we've raised $43 million. We raised that across 3 rounds, which we did over the course of about a year and a half, immediately after dropping out of Stanford. We have plenty of money in the bank, and I am 100% locked in on building. So we are here building, we're heads down, we're working on product, we're working on growth, we're figuring out where we're going to go. And yeah, that's the only thing on my mind. How can we reach more users, provide more value, enter new spaces, and continue to make our product something that truly is generational? That's what we're going for here. We're not trying to be like we talked about, we're not trying to be one of those platforms that goes up and down. We're trying to be a platform that changes the lives of this generation in a really positive way.
And in the context of that, obviously you've got to have some kind of vision for monetization. You have to have some kind of vision for a pathway to profitability. VC money is harder to come by than ever before nowadays. And one of the things that VCs are looking for, apart from AI in your name, apart from that, they're looking for, do you have a pathway to some future version of yourself that is profitable, where we're going to make our money back and then hopefully get a 10 bagger or a 100 bagger out of this. VCs operate based on the power law, and they know that only 1 out of 10 investments roughly is probably going to be successful, and the other 9 are going to go to zero. And they're okay with that, so long as hopefully you're one of those 10. And that's their vision for you, and that's their vision for their back pocket, which makes sense. And $43 million, it's not chump change, it's not nothing. And they're going to expect a return at some point. So what is your vision for monetization of the platform at some point in the future?
There are a lot of different ways in which we can monetize. One of them may end up being the marketplace. But traditionally with social platforms, and you're seeing this with Reddit right now, it's advertising. And we see that companies are knocking at our door nonstop trying to reach college students. We are the path to distribution. At the end of the day, if you are a company that wants 18 to 22-year-olds in the US to be using whatever product you are offering, there is one great way to reach them, and it is Fizz. If you want to reach 90% of Stanford or Dartmouth or Princeton, you are not going to do it through any other platform. And I think that is probably going to be one of the leading ways in which monetization manifests itself. But there are a lot of different ways in which it could happen. It could be marketplace. It could be another path. We'll see down the line.
I think you hit the button on the nail on the head. Reddit now is learning that they can monetize their data in an anonymous way for training LLMs, and they've found other ways to monetize other than just pure advertising. But I think what every social platform to me seems to struggle with is striking the balance between marketing and advertising and user experience. And it feels Facebook maybe started out with a pretty decent balance, and now it's a horrible balance. It's shifted to where my feed is just cluttered with nothing but ads. Instagram started out feeling like it had a pretty good balance, and now it feels like one big ad platform. So it feels, I'm not quite sure what the answer to this looks like. I'm not quite sure how, because the temptation is, if we make, hypothetically, let's pull a number out of the air. If we're making $100 million a year on ads today, if we have more inventory and more space for ads, then maybe next year we can make 200 million or 500 million or $1 billion. And so the temptation always is, how can we have more advertisable space, more ad inventory on our platform? And how can we inject ads into every single user interaction on the platform so that we can monetize it to the max? And I guess that's always the risk, right? And again, you may not have the answer to this yet. You may say, look, we'll wait and see. We'll try not to over monetize. We'll try not to over advertising and hurt the user experience. But it seems almost every single social platform eventually gets to that place. And I'm seeing it even with TikTok now, to where advertising on TikTok is just blatant. It's in your face and it really pollutes your feed. So I guess it's always a risk, right?
It's always a risk, but the most important thing is keeping the users first. I actually don't think monetization is going to make our user experience worse. I think at the point where we're introducing ads, it'll be very targeted ads. It's advertising, it's advertisers with products that college students really like, and it adds to their experience, on the platform. We're doing this slowly. We've done everything slowly in the sense of controlled expansion, and the same mindset is true with respect to monetization. So we will introduce brands to our platform and make sure that our users are always thought of first. I have been to over 100 campuses around the US. My job is to stay as close to the users as humanly possible, and that's not going to change. So whether that is building out new features for our product, whether it is continuing to enhance the marketplace, whether it's monetization, whether it's entering new markets, I'm going to stay as close to the users as possible. And our team is going to do the same thing as well to make sure that we're not damaging their experience on the app. It's still one that really adds value to their lives.
And how are you getting access to these campuses? Because obviously with most campuses, they're not gated. You can walk on, and if you look like a uni student, you can wander around the quad and everything else. But how do you get into these campuses in a way that allows you to get genuine user feedback from the people that are on campus, on the platform, and experiencing it for themselves? Now, obviously, you could reach out to them electronically via the platform, but there's nothing quite like an in-person conversation. And are these universities, are there business Are there business professors, for example, reaching out to you and saying, hey, come and speak on our campus about Fizz and how you came to be? And are the schools embracing this as much as the student bodies are, i.e. the administrators of these universities? Are they embracing Fizz just as much as the student bodies, or is there a little bit of friction there? They're going, hey, actually, we feel like this is our responsibility. We've got a campus newsletter. We've got our campus website. We've got these tools that students can make use of on campus. And we feel like Fizz is maybe a competitor to some of our on-campus tooling. So how does that relationship work with the campuses themselves?
Yeah. So on the first point, when it comes to gathering user feedback, you can always go through the platform, and we do tons of user interviews and talking to our users. But I can also go to any given campus and talk to people. Something that I really love is just hearing out people's stories, whether that's their life story or their story in terms of their experience using the app. And I'm 22. I was 18 when we started building the app, 19 when I left Stanford. So I'm college age. I go, I make friends on these campuses. I learn more about their experiences using the app. And it's been invaluable having the opportunity to do that. In the earliest days, we were in a dorm surrounded by all of our users. Before we dropped out of Stanford, we were just in our dorm, and everybody around us used the app and would constantly give us feedback. And it was the greatest thing we could have possibly asked for. On the note of administrations, we have a lot of administrators asking us to partner up with them in terms of helping them get information about things. So we've had administrators at USF, at University of the Pacific, schools across California that have said, students will report to us about issues on campus that we found out about on Fizz. It's really valuable for us to get this information. And it's been really cool to have that funnel in to administrators' thoughts. And we've seen a lot of positive change be made as a result of giving students a platform to vocalize their concerns, because no college is perfect. I loved Stanford. I thought it was an unbelievable experience. Of course, it's not perfect. Stanford Fizz allows people to have the opportunity to talk about the struggles of existing on a campus. So that's it's really an important part of it. It's that you need to give students a voice, and administrators need to listen to that voice. You also mentioned speaking in classes or clubs. I was a guest speaker in a class at Stanford last year. I've spoken at just about every club at Stanford. I'd love to go back there to interact with the students and tell them about my experience growing the company. So anytime they reach out to me, I'm always happy to go. And the same is true with other campuses. I've been to UC Santa Cruz to talk to a group of students there, and it's been a really incredible journey. It's always nice to talk to our users, because a lot of the time when you're in college, you have a speaker come to campus. You're like, who is this person? What do they do? And for these students, we use his app every day. This is actually something that I think I can put the pieces together as to why this is important. And I just really love talking to students. I think the college experience is unmatched. It's an incredible ecosystem. It's awesome.
Wow. And so you've been up and running effectively, like officially, for 3 years or whatever, 2 years, whatever it is. First of all, are you willing or are you able to tell us rough user numbers on the platform? Is it in the hundreds of thousands? Is it in the millions? And then secondarily, you will have already had some students that graduated since they started using your app. And as long as they maintain their .edu, because I don't actually know how the .edu addressing works in the United States, oddly. The moment that you graduate, do they basically kill off your email address and that's it? You can't use it anymore? Or once you graduate, can you still continue to use the .edu email address there? So therefore, I can still live inside Fizz if I want to.
So I can't share raw user count, but what I can say is we're on 240 campuses around the US. And what I can say with respect to alumni is we haven't had that many graduating classes. Most of the schools we went to were actually last academic year. But those who have graduated from the platform, most schools will, actually all schools from what I know, will remove your .edu email once you're out of school. So new users who are post-college will not be able to register on the platform. We do have some people who, for example, graduated last year who are still on the platform because they registered ahead of time, and they love to be able to stay connected to their campus experience. But that's not a permanent. We want to give alumni the opportunity to connect with one another. So we'll see what that looks like down the line.
Okay, so so potentially at the moment, if let's say I'm in my senior year today, and I join Fizz, and then I graduate, and they kill off my .edu address because I've now graduated and I can't have that email address anymore. Then, as of today, I would lose my access to Fizz. As of today.
As of today, if you're already in there, you will keep your access. But if you're not already in there, you won't be able to create an account.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, fair enough. Because obviously you validate the address by sending a
So the
validation
onboarding
email to that
process.
address. So it's actually got to be an active live address that I can receive email on when I subscribe or when I sign up.
Process, we have to use active third-party authentication to make sure that this is a student at the school who is coming in.
Fair enough. Now, that makes complete sense. If we were to look out over the next, I don't know, 6, 12, 18 months, what's on your roadmap? What are students asking for? Or what are other areas, gaps that you've identified in the market that you already want to exploit that you say, hey, we don't do this today, but if you look out 6 months from now, it's likely that we're going to be doing this. What is high on your radar?
There are a couple main areas that I can share in terms of where we are expanding. So one of them is continued improvement of the marketplace. It's a brand new feature and it's only growing. When we launched it in spring, we barely told people that it even existed. We just stuck into the bottom right-hand corner of their screen and just watched 50,000 listings, 200,000 DMs, just an insane amount of activity in the marketplace happen. So we want to continue to improve our marketplace. We want to continue to expand beyond the college market. You'll see over the next 6 months to a year what that means in terms of expansion there. It's really important to us, again, to be the Gen Z product rather than the college product. And then to continue to fill these utilitarian gaps in users' experiences and students' experiences. Marketplace was just one of those gaps. It exists in the jobs realm, in the connection and relationships realm, et cetera, et cetera. There are a lot of areas that we can dive into. So we are building a lot behind the scenes, and you'll see a lot more of it in the next 6 months.
Wow, that gets my mind fizzing. Love it. And now it looks like you're a mobile only app. Now you've got a web interface that's just the basic information as far as I can tell. The web interface is really just to be able to download the mobile apps for Fizz. I don't think I can use Fizz, the platform, through a browser. Can I?
We do have a Mac app. We do have a Mac app as well, but it's
Okay.
primarily mobile. So
Okay.
we really believe that one big difference between us and Reddit, and there are many differences. They're interest-based, we're experience-based. They are lower velocity, we're higher velocity. They are not private communities, we're private communities. But another one is we're mobile, because that's what this generation is. This generation is mobile. This generation uses their phone. And Fizz is a viral posting platform. On viral posting platforms, you want to get the trending post sent to you as push notifications. You want to be able to pull it out of your pocket and know where the party's at. You don't want to have your computer on you. So mobile first, it's always our priority. It's going to continue to be our priority.
And
Apple only. Which,
wow, is that the intent?
That's the intent right now, in that on US college campuses, we find that our estimate is about 98% of students have iPhones, which is a very high amount and usually contrary to what people believe. Eventually, there will be a non-iOS version, but we're working our way in the Android direction. We'll see when that happens.
Fair enough. Yeah, it's interesting, that whole debate about which mobile operating system is going to win the battle there. But yeah, obviously, if you're on elite university campuses, I suppose there are mostly rich kids that can afford iPhones. So,
well, what's interesting is we're really not on elite university campuses. We have those schools, but we're on 240 campuses, ranging from schools with 15% graduation rates to 99% graduation rates. It seems as though nearly everybody uses an iPhone. And I've been on every campus from Langston University, which has a 15% graduation rate, in Guthrie, Oklahoma, where everyone had an iPhone, to Princeton University, where everybody is very high academic and wealthy and also has an iPhone. So there hasn't seemed to be that much of a difference between campuses in terms of the distribution. What you will see, though, is at a school like Caltech, students are going to have Androids. And at engineering schools, Harvey Mudd, Caltech,
MIT maybe even.
We're very big at MIT, and we find that they have iPhones. It's these really hardcore engineering schools generally, sometimes on the West Coast and maybe even down in the Southwest, that might have Androids. Has not proven to be much of a problem up to this point.
Wow. Amazing. Listen, this has been a fascinating conversation. I always love speaking to people that are on the bleeding edge of technology, social commerce, the whole 9 yards. I've been doing this for 24 years, working in the commerce space, specifically the digital commerce space. So I'd like to think maybe that's one of the things that's helping keep me young, is the fact that I live and breathe this stuff literally every single day and make content in this space every single day. All the best to you, and I'm sure it will keep you young too. I think when you work in the tech space, it definitely helps you to keep your finger on the pulse of society, culture, where the future of humanity is headed. And certainly anything that helps bring people together versus separate them has got to be a good thing. I think we got enough things in the world that separate us. We got enough things that tear us apart, that anything that brings us together and unifies us has got to be a good thing. And it sounds like that's exactly what you're tapping into with the concept of Fizz. I really like that. I really like that idea of bringing communities together on campus and off at the end of the day. So absolutely love it. Now, as we come down to the end of our time together, this is where I get to flip the script. I get to let you ask me one question, any question you like. It could be personal or professional. So, Mr. Teddy Solomon from Fizz, what is your question for me today?
What would you be doing if not what you're doing right now professionally?
That's such a great question. I've actually never been asked that question. I've never been asked that question before out of 400 episodes. And I've had questions that gotten a little bit close, but never had it asked quite like that. Man, that's such a hard thing to say. I've been doing this for so long that I have a hard time envisaging anything else that I would love more. And maybe that's, I take that back. I think that if I could snap my fingers and have a different career, it might be something like a travel blogger, something in the travel content space. I know that's saturated to buggery now, and everybody and their dog is a travel blogger and all that sort of stuff on Instagram and all that sort of stuff. And we have Insta models and all that sort of stuff. But I think if I could have gotten into that world really early on before it got overly saturated, because I'm a big traveler, my wife's a massive traveler. That's one of the reasons we left New Zealand, was to basically make up for the lost time of COVID, of being locked down for 3 years and not being able to leave the country. We're massive travelers. We had so much time to make up for. And we love, my wife's Asian, and I have friends from every corner of the globe, every color and persuasion and culture and gender. And I think that travel is the thing that allows us to become more empathetic to the way other people live. Because it's really hard. You can see stuff online, you can meet people online, but until you literally go to their hometown, or you go to their country, you go to their village, and you eat their food, and you live alongside them, and you do the things that they do on a daily basis. When we first moved to Mexico, we spent all of 2023 traveling around Mexico by car. We did 20,000 kilometers around Mexico by car in 2023. And we were staying in small towns, big cities, and everything in between. Most of the places we stayed, the big places, we'd stay there for a month at a time. So we weren't just passing through. We were literally trying to feel what it would be like to actually live in these communities, because we were ultimately trying to find a place where we could make a future and settle down. And for me, travel is the great barrier breaker. Like like people that would normally be diametrically opposed to each other, like politically or philosophically or religiously or anything else. What I find is that when you travel to those places where you would think you would be diametrically opposed to these other human beings, that we have much more in common, like way more in common than we don't. And that's true of every single place I've visited on this planet so far. And I just think that exposing those experiences to people in whatever medium you can, social, whatever, I just feel like that gives them, even if they can't travel today, it gives them a little taste of that. It helps to open people's eyes when you can look at the world through their lens. And that I think that's probably, if I could snap my fingers and do it all over again, that's probably what I'd love to do.
Cool. I think I've experienced something really similar with college campuses, where you might think when you exist in the bubble of Stanford that, oh, I'm only going to get along with people who go to Stanford or Yale or Princeton or Dartmouth or any of these places. It's just not true. College students are way more similar than people realize. And my best experiences have been being at places like Eastern Kentucky University or Oklahoma Christian University or Abilene Christian University, these places where the San Francisco kid who went to Stanford never thought he was going to end up. But it's been unbelievable hearing out the stories of the students on those campuses.
Man, I love that. Listen, I'll drop a link to your LinkedIn profile as well as to the Fizz website in the show notes. Other than that, if people want to learn more about Fizz, if they want to learn more about what you're doing, what's on your roadmap, and maybe they even want to join Fizz because they've listened to this and they're on a university campus somewhere, how should people reach out and get a hold of you?
Shoot me an email, teddy@fizzsocial.app, or send me a message on LinkedIn. And you're welcome to reach out to us. You can also email our team. I believe it's info@fizzsocial.app, and we're always happy to chat love to meet new people, hear new stories.
Absolutely love it. Thank you so much for coming on the pod. Really appreciate you sharing your story. It is very inspirational, and I'm sure that you will inspire many listeners of mine to go and do their own thing that has a social impact. So thank you so much, Teddy. Can't wait to speak to you again soon.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a pleasure being on here.
Are you a B2B or D2C e-commerce merchant? Then head over to greenwoodconsulting.net to learn how we can help you scale your business.